Afra Afsharipour, Professor of Law, Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, UC Davis School of Law.
Hi, I'm Afra Afsharipour. I am a professor of law and the Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at UC Davis School of Law.
What was your pathway to your current career?
I kind of, in some ways, knew I wanted to be an attorney from a relatively young age, certainly since middle school. I'm a first generation immigrant to the United States. I moved here when I was 10 years old and didn't speak any English. I'd come from Iran, and I was fairly cognizant of the politics and the challenging politics of the country that I was coming from, and the importance of the law and the rule of law. And so from a fairly young age, including my high school years, I was really interested in being an attorney. There were no other attorneys in my family. I didn't really actually know any other attorneys. But it was something that always seemed of interest to me because I liked history, I liked politics, I liked reading, I liked writing, I liked arguing, and I liked reasoning through things. And so that was one of the reasons why I was particularly interested in being an attorney. I don't think at the point of starting even college that I thought I was going to become necessarily a business attorney. I'm not sure I understood what business lawyers really did. But I started out college taking a lot of math and economics courses and became more and more interested in the way that our economy and our markets function. And so as I then went on to law school and then I started out in practice, I became much more interested in business law. Say, in terms of my experience, in terms of getting to becoming both an attorney and then being a business lawyer specifically, and now teaching business law at all different levels.
What skills have you found most valuable in your career?
The thing that I think was most important is being open to asking a lot of questions and understanding how much you don't actually know about things, to just step back and listen to people and ask questions. I think that's really critical, and especially in terms of for students who are coming from backgrounds like mine, where you are an immigrant or you are first generation, or you are first generation to go to college, or you don't have family members who have experience with the legal system. I think for me, volunteer work or also just regular jobs where I talk to a lot of the people who were further in their career and I asked them questions was really helpful for me to gain a better understanding of what it is that business lawyers really do. The other thing I would say that was really useful in terms of becoming a business lawyer, and particularly a transactional lawyer. So I was an attorney who did a lot of large publicly traded company mergers and acquisitions transactions or initial public offerings, and those sorts of big public company type of transactions. Was being really organized, being diligent, not leaving things to the last minute was a skill that came in handy once I was actually in practice.
What is corporate social responsibility?
So I'm an academic who writes about corporate social responsibility. So I'd start out with saying that the definition of corporate social responsibility is still pretty contested. But there are several core elements of corporate social responsibility, and these core elements really look at how a company conducts its business and how the company manages its relationships with a broad range of stakeholders. And by stakeholders, I mean employees, I mean the local community, I mean their creditors, so the banks that they're borrowing money from, their customers, and the general environment. The definition of corporate social responsibility that sort of I ascribe to is sort of similar to the definition that's been adopted by some large initiatives, that basically looks at corporate social responsibility as not only what companies do with their profits. So not only do you then use your money to donate to a cause that you believe in, but also really looks at how you make your money. And so it goes beyond philanthropy and compliance with specific laws, and it really addresses how companies manage their economic, their social, and their environmental impact, as well as then their relationships with all these spheres of influence that I just mentioned. So the workplace, the marketplace, the supply chain, the community, the public policy realm.
Why is social responsibility important for small businesses?
And so some of this might seem very big picture for people who are managing a small business, but it's really important for small businesses to think about their social responsibility either to their own smaller communities or to the larger world as a whole. So corporate businesses, including small businesses that have a socially responsible outlook towards how they run their business and what they do with their business, um, they are better able to gain the trust of their employees. They're better able to gain the confidence of their customers and the loyalty of their customers. They're able to build their brand. They're able to build relationships with their local political leaders or with their suppliers. And so, one of the things that I see in my own work is I have a small mechanic that I go to, and they are a B corporation. They're a benefit corporation. And I asked the owner, it's a small business, they only own one shop. I said, why did you become a benefit corporation? Which is essentially saying that I'm a socially responsible entity. And he said, because I want my employees to know I have their back. I want my customers to know that when we work on your cars, that we are responsible in terms of the environmental impact that we're having in our local areas. I want our customers to know that we have certain kinds of standards with respect to how we treat our employees. I want our suppliers to know that we have integrity in the kind of work that we do. So I think that's one of the reasons why corporate social responsibility is important, not just for large corporations, but for businesses kind of at all levels of their growth or development.
Afra Afsharipour, Professor of Law, Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, UC Davis School of Law.